Show time it is. So, as you can see, I'm going to be reading through the Carolyn Bryant. I'm going to be reading through this entire suit. Jonathan Majors is facing bullshit. I recognize that. I think you do too. Let's begin. United States District Court for the Southern District of New York. We know who the plaintiff is. I don't like this screen. I like this better. My face is larger. And let's read through the whole thing. Anyone want to say anything? Hit me up in the live chat. Jonathan Majors, defendant, plaintiff, Carolyn Bryant, by and through her undersigned attorneys, Edwards, Henderson, P. Blah, 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 blah. The nature of the action. 1. This is an action in an amount in excess of $75,000, exclusive of interest and costs, and is within the jurisdictional limits of this court. At all times, material to this cause of action, the plaintiff, Carolyn Bryant, was a citizen of and domiciled, lives in the UK. At all times, material to this cause of action, defendant, Jonathan Majors, hereafter Majors, a residence located in New York, and is otherwise sui juris. Carolyn and defendant Jonathan Majors met in London, August 2021. We know that. Not the first person that Majors has subjected to verbal abuse or physical violence, a fact unknown to her when she met him. And they cited the Rolling Stone article. Of course, this was anonymous. Oh, sorry, this is the 2020. This is the one with Emma Duncan. Okay, never mind. This wasn't the anonymous one. Yeah, that was an accusation, and I would like for her to take action. Hey, we got Marcus in the building. Hello there.
What's going on, bro?
Sorry, I didn't see you. How long were you waiting for me for?
Couple seconds, not long.
Okay, cool. What I was gonna do is read the whole entire civil suit and then wait for my guests to come in.
Go.
But your time is precious. I don't know how much time you got because I could go for an hour and then we can watch Black Comic Lords interview Brian Edward Hill. But how long do you have?
Sure, gonna check that out. I can give you about 30, 40 minutes or so.
Okay, then hit me up with. Let's just get to the. You left a comment asking me, or you said something. You said you disagreed. I was saying to settle. You and I, huge fans of the Mamba right behind you. He settled.
Sure.
I don't feel like the reputation damage is significant. I just feel like, yeah, you settle, you get it out of your life. Only $75,000. Yeah, settle. So, what's your opinion?
Is that what she's asking? I hadn't read the lawsuit.
Yep. Yeah, just a minute ago, I was just reading the entire thing, and like the first thing she asks for, the first note is right here where it says 75K. Is that 75? Am I missing the zeros?
No, you got it. 75,000. Or wait, no, is that a comma or a decimal? I think
This
that's
is
a decimal. The last one is a decimal, right? Yeah, 75,000.
Yeah, 75,000. Then there's a comma here.
Yep. Okay. Yeah. I mean, that's not a lot of money, and you're right about the Mamba. Definitely settled. I would say in response to that, it was a different time, definitely a different climate, and the circumstances couldn't be any more like deafening in between the two. If there was a video of that individual who brought suit against Kobe Bryant back in 2003 leaving his hotel and never showing back up, that played on the television every day in the lead up to the trial and during the trial, I don't think there would have been a settlement. If the circumstances lent themselves to Kobe Bryant's defense like they did with Jonathan Majors, I think maybe that case would have played out differently. So it maybe was in Bryant's best interest to settle at that point, precluding his innocence or not. But my thing with Jonathan Majors in particular is that so much of what has been done for Jonathan Majors, I won't speak for Miss McMahon, but for Jonathan Majors, so much of the damage that has been done to him has been reputation, right? Like there hasn't been a lot of, other than probably his legal cost. But that aside, most of the hit he's taken thus far has been to his reputation, to his career. If anyone should have the ability to recoup some funds lost based off of falsities being pressed,
It's
based off
Jonathan.
of fallacies, like whole fallacies. Um, it's just not Jonathan Majors. And to that end, I feel like a lot of the racial undertone that we feel about this situation.
What racial undertone? Oh, you must have
Okay.
saw my thumbnail for the video.
That's a great picture of Grace. Um, but so much of that kind of boils down to this idea of obedience, right? When you talk about racial angst in America, when you have that feeling of oppression down on you, it just kind of feels like you need to obey no matter what, right? And so when you see something like this, a case like this, where it feels like the system actually is going to work for this person because the evidence is there, it seems plain as day, right? Even some of the things that seem strong for the prosecution along the way in that case seem to go by the wayside. There were charges dropping in the lead up left and right.
Oh yeah.
But nonetheless, justice system does its thing. And so
So why roll the dice again and say justice system will do me just fine this time?
why I don't think the evidence changes though. I don't think her case to prove that Jonathan Majors hurt, assaulted, and battered her is any stronger in a civil suit than it was in criminal. If anybody's rolling the dice about how the legal jeopardy might handle this case, it's Grace. I mean, she, like really
No,
got dealt a
in a
fortunate hand.
civil suit
She
though.
could have been the one up for these exact same charges: harassment,
Yeah,
assault, all of that.
yeah, because he's
Should
got a
have been.
photo of his face and everything on that March
Should have
25 day.
been. So if the circumstances were different, if she was the Hollywood actor and he was the VFX artist at Marvel, and all of this had went down, and he just so happened not to have my skin complexion, maybe this stuff doesn't go this way. And that's what I'm saying. Like, if I got the grace of God on my side, and it just kind of worked out for me, and I avoided criminal charges in a country where I'm not I'm just a working resident, not a legal resident, I would probably just chill. I would just chill. So in my mind, the way I'm thinking, there's no way I'm going to give that person who made it out of this situation as in the best way possible and still wants more. I'm not
Yeah,
giving that
she
person a dime.
the way that the district attorney just said, "Ah, we're gonna take care of those charges. Don't worry, no prosecutorial merits."
That's
She
a
really
sweetheart
just
deal.
won. She won. She did
Yeah, she
everything.
won. You already won.
Yeah.
You want $75,000. So what? A year's salary for Marvel, maybe?
Well, apparently he hit her back in September is what she's claiming. And it's not and she's claiming this. Like and
Mhm.
we can read the whole entire suit that she's got against him, but the judge or what's the word? The bearer for a guilty verdict is hard in criminal court. It's beyond reasonable doubt. Civil, you could be swayed and give someone a guilty without being certain about it. And that's what I'm saying about how easier it just got for her.
I mean, yeah, I feel there's jeopardy on both sides, right? There's a risk on, well, not as much because she just doesn't get her payment if she loses. But I don't think it necessarily behooves her if the argument is that he defamed me. I lost wages because of what he said to me.
Because of
He
what his
altered my
lawyer
life.
said.
Right,
Because
because
of
of what
what
his
Priya
lawyer said.
Chaudhry.
If
Mm.
that's the argument, I don't think going through a lengthy civil suit with a celebrity is going to make that any better, right? I don't think that's going to fix that situation for you holistically. And then $75,000 at the end of it as a take home. It just feels like
Right. No, finish.
it feels like a cash grab, man. I don't know.
It is a cash grab. It's crazy. And it's probably like a setup for future because she's not alone, right? Her, the district attorney, they're all in bed with members of the media, and they're all probably and even the judge. You can't tell me that the judge wasn't coordinating that day in court where they came back and they said, "Actually, Priya, yesterday you opened the door, and that's why we're going to be allowing these text messages to come." And then the way that whole thing played out, because I read the transcripts, and he kind of gave the whole speech of he gives like a spiel every time they use text messages, and he says that this is not considered evidence. This is considered background information, and he did that whole spiel, but he did it as if he knew they were done talking about those past text messages, and then it was time to come back to the
It's time to
present.
go. Yeah.
It was fishing. I did a video covering it. Kat did a video about it when she did the reading the transcripts, which is
But
something.
you don't think him paying her or settling outside of court with her in some way then signals to the rest of the supposed victims of Jonathan Major to go ahead and either seek the same type of compensation or to come forward and tell their story and try their chances just like they did with damn, who is this happening to right now in real life? Diddy,
Did he?
right? So the Cassie lawsuit comes out, he settles within a week. Then all of a sudden we got Little Rod and we got all of these. The internet has dug up all of this extra stuff
Yeah.
about Diddy over the years that we overlooked. You know what I'm
Do you
saying? Like
think?
it hasn't gotten any easier for Diddy, and he
Do you
settled
think?
very quickly.
Do you think Diddy did it?
Yes.
Do you think Jonathan did it? No.
No.
And I guess that's the difference. We kind of believe
But
Diddy did
but,
it.
but if we're talking about public opinion and then court of law, neither one of those are predicated on truth. Neither
Public
one of those are
opinion, yeah,
predicated
but
on truth.
public opinion. As soon as he got arrested, that's it. Well, the cops don't just arrest everyone willy nilly, and that was an assumed guilt that he couldn't fight
Mhm.
off.
I feel as though he hasn't. I don't think he's completely lost his career like we thought he would
No.
in terms of working,
Yeah.
right? He obviously lost the Disney money, which means white evangelical America is off limits for him for a little while.
Is
That's
that
what
right?
that means. Mhm. But that doesn't mean his acting career is over. If he wants to get back into mainstream Chris Evans, Robert Downey Jr. world, he got to pay a penance, right? But that doesn't mean he can't work. So if that's the case and you're innocent, stand your ground. It's no longer life or death. Even
Yeah.
in the case that you just lost, I
Yeah.
don't think we're talking about with a first time offender. We're talking about serious jail time. Stand your ground. Stand your ground.
All
If
right. So
you're
you're
innocent, stand your ground.
now
You're
you're more
appealing that case, and even if it doesn't go the way that you want it to, I have a hard time believing they're going to put this man in jail.
no,
So stand your ground, man. Don't
because
don't
there's so
concede.
little to lose. It's just 75,000. If you lose, it's like you already lost a Marvel job. How
But
much worse can it get?
it's a sign of guilt to the public. And that is going to signal to anybody who Rolling Stones talk to go further and go get that cash.
Yeah.
That's how I feel
I
about it.
know.
I
I
feel
know.
like if he tips his hat and he goes, okay, I'll just go ahead and pay her quickly and get this over with, then whoever was talking to Rolling Stone is going to drum their story. They're going to try to get on television. They're going to try and seek compensation for him. I'm telling you, because that is the roadmap to turning this into something right now. If you are not an honest actor, I'm not talking about real life victims of domestic violence. The only reason why I can talk about this situation so extensively is because we've had it broken down so extensively over the last year. We've been into these people's relationship in grave detail. We've taken a fine-tooth comb over their lives. We know stuff about these people that we would only reserve for our close fans and family. So, like, this is not a normal situation where you would be talking on a domestic situation like this. We can pull up all their information on the internet right now from court documents. So,
Kind
from
of.
what I have ascertained, I don't see any reason why he would need to buckle to this because trying this case again, being able to argue this case again, number one is what the appeal is about. But I feel like another partial court, another partial jury, you take another swing at this, it doesn't look the way the first trial looks. I don't think another set of 6 reasonable people come to that same conclusion.
I'm never gonna underestimate people of colorless.
I mean,
And
you right. No, but you are right. You are right. And maybe that's a little bit of naivete from me. But I, I was trying to common sense this thing from the start, right? You kind of
common sense
called the
wise,
whole
he wins. Common sense wise, he
yeah.
gets not guilty for not just 2, but all 4.
That's
But you're
that's
you're
what I
you're
thought as well. But the fact that they had to ratchet it down as much as they did too, right? We went from this man is a serial abuser
oh yeah.
over 40 people have come forward and told us about his dastardly deeds. And
Yeah.
then he was so abusive to Grace Jabari. He harassed her, he choked her, he did all that. That's what they went to court with. And by the time we got done with the trial, we got down to he accidentally harmed her while fleeing. He accidentally harmed and harassed her
Yeah.
while fleeing
Hmm.
and reclaiming his property, which is supposed to be allowing of force in New York, which was a bit, I think,
Reasonable
was an
force.
oversight.
That's
That was
right.
an oversight,
But then
but
when he was telling his version of the events on ABC, he didn't even admit that she had the phone in her possession. The way he sounded, it was always in his hand, like she never had it.
if that was one of the points that they were raising in the appeal, and I think it was the fact that he didn't explain to the jury that he was allowed to use force to regain his phone.
Oh, okay.
Like
Which is
every time he was going through, like you said, he was going through painstaking detail, explaining what was evidence, what was not, how they were to interpret words versus what they were allowed to use as evidence. Right? He didn't do that in the case when they were talking about how they struggled over the phone, which is where the actual charge came from. You are allowed in New York to use force to reclaim property that was taken from you,
yes.
that someone had to assault you to gain.
No, but you didn't read the fine print. It's whites only, it says.
But the fact that that wasn't explained to the jury, most likely, I mean, I don't know, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm
Yeah.
telling you, if you didn't tell them a rule that eventually led to a charge on that very instance, it sounds like maybe that may led to whatever interpretation led them to give him a charge.
It's just that after some deliberation, they returned to the courtroom and they were asking for evidence of the transcript where Chloe, the white girl that they met on the street,
Mhm.
apparently over at the everywhere you go, this guy comes.
Hey, my boy Nate Moore. He watching
So
this, man. That's where those MCU changes are coming from.
whatever my train of thought was, just Chloe. So she says that she asked me for ice when we were at the club, and it was at a part of the club where there's no cameras either, so it's not like we can find that evidence, right? She needed ice for her
Mhm.
finger. The jury asked that because they needed. Okay, you see that must mean he did injure her finger, because it never crossed their minds that maybe she injured her finger and required ice later. And then plus Chloe herself was drunk and given the testimony it's
I was
unreliable.
about to
And
say,
then plus
like,
I
she's
thought
in the club. People ask for ice all the time in the club. She didn't have to be literally have to be injured to ask for ice in the
It did
club.
not need to be Jonathan Majors. And then we see later on after the club when she was waiting on the elevator, just sitting down, rummaging through her bag and using her finger to click and using her finger on the handrail at the club. Like we have enough evidence where no, her finger wasn't injured. If it was injured, she required ice, and that was a real event that took place. And it was because of Jonathan. I just wouldn't have seen her use her finger, the same one that's supposedly injured. And then also there's the doctor who said that it was consistent with a self injury. Let's read this
Mhm.
whole thing, and then if you need to bounce, just leave. I won't consider it rude if
For
you got
sure.
to take care of your kids or whatnot.
Appreciate it.
Grace is not the person that Jonathan Majors is subjected to verbal abuse. Only person subjected to verbal abuse, physical violence, a fact unknown to her when she met him. This case arises from I didn't do the thing where we're on screen. There we go. This arises from a pattern of pervasive domestic abuse that began in 2021 and extended through 2023. I want to just bring something up. During the opening statements,
Mhm.
they said that this was emotional abuse that climaxed to physical abuse on March 25, indicating to me that the first time physical abuse happened was March 25. That's what that sounds like to me. So, anyways, we got this pervasive domestic abuse. Now, they don't say physical or emotional, just domestic abuse began in 2021 to 23. The totality of the circumstances and the history of the domestic abuse are pertinent to understanding the severity of Carolyn Bryant's damages. Majors began exhibiting concerning behavior towards Carolyn Bryant as early as September 2021. From then on, the verbal assault and frightening anger of him continued to escalate until the first time that he physically attacked Grace in July of 2022. I hope there's pictures of this. In September,
Or corroborating witnesses, or something that the New York DA wouldn't have thought to try and bring up or introduce in this case that Grace just has ready for her civil trial.
he physically attacked her again, this time causing serious injuries to her body. All right, let's see some photos, some burns, Soon after,
Because
Grace
why wouldn't have all of that have been given over and introduced for the trial we just got done dealing with.
They'll say
And
so.
I want to call while I want you to finish this, but I just want to bring everybody's attention back to the explosive nature of the prosecution's, their come out to after they brought the charges against Majors, right? It was fiery, it was explosive, it sounded so bad. And then when it got down to the proving session of it all, they came up short on a lot of that fiery language that they were using.
Yeah.
I would suspect, unless evidence just came out of nowhere, that the same is tracking here. It's fiery language to proof up the lawsuit, right? To put pressure on Jonathan Majors and to make him want to settle for this low amount of money. I would tell Felicia to kick rocks.
Still, still really. I'm over here. So soon after, Felicia disclosed the physical abuse to a member of Jonathan's management team in an effort to get him help. Okay, there's a witness. Majors was furious when he learned that Felicia had outed him as an abuser. Okay?
So then, yeah, that should be easy. We should be able to pull that person in, have them give their testimony, and tell us exactly what was said to them and what they saw. And
I'm
that should be easy.
suspicious. I'm suspicious as this is Priya Santiani, the other Priya. I'm suspicious that that's who this person is, and she didn't participate at all in the criminal case. So I'm wondering, like, what's her thing? Like, why wasn't she part of
Like
it?
whose side is she on, type of thing.
Yeah,
I
why did
mean,
she remain neutral? Is it like it's bad for business to go against another celebrity? Is that what's going on here?
probably like who else would she work for after that in that
Yeah,
capacity? If she
yeah.
were to it's kind of like the driver thing where the company wouldn't turn over the video evidence from inside the dash cam of the car, right? Like who's gonna ride with us again if we actually comply with this? So
Is is she
it got
committing
lost or it was damaged.
the perjury thing? Is no, this isn't something that's happening on the stand. This is just a civil suit. They can say whatever they want to say here, and then
Here,
it's
yeah,
up to the
yeah.
judge to decide whether or not it goes to court. To get him help. Majors was furious when he learned. Still reeling from the perceived betrayal, the relationship between Grace and Majors continued to deteriorate, culminating in yet another violent incident in 2023, wherein Jonathan Majors caused her to sustain a broken finger and laceration behind her ear. We know that's not true.
False.
Following Majors' arrest, she disclosed the entire history of both verbal and physical abuse to the DA, along with written evidence of the same. Yeah, that did happen following his arrest, but it was also right after she recanted the statements and was text messaging him, "Come back, baby. It's okay. I told the officers that you didn't do that."
And then bounced back to London and tried to stay there and didn't come back from any of the pre-trial motions or anything like that. And then eventually got her trial charges when she did come back to America, only to have them wiped away so that she can be the star witness in the prosecution's trial against Jonathan Majors.
They seem to have left that part out. Despite living in extreme fear of the repercussions, she has continued to tell the truth about the abuse. Now that he can no longer physically abuse her, he has resorted to very publicly abusing her reputation, which is so false. Following his
Very
arrest,
publicly, he's spoken one time out of his mouth publicly about you on a Dateline interview. That's it. One time.
the times that he mentioned her name, it was to say, "I loved Grace."
Oh
Like,
my
what are you talking
God.
about?
Lord
Um,
have mercy.
he immediately implemented an extensive media campaign smearing her, claiming that he was completely innocent, is probably the victim, that he did not assault her whatsoever. That's slander nowadays. And that this woman was having an emotional crisis for which she was taken to a hospital. But that's true though. That did happen to her. She actually went to that psychiatric ward in the that hospital. Is it Bellevue? Was it called?
But you know what's funny about her is when they choose to acknowledge that she's having some sort of emotional break of some sort that requires attention, right? When she's locking herself in a closet with a shrine built to her then ex-boyfriend, it's not a mental break.
My
If she
God.
takes a bottle of wine and downs it herself on the beach, it's not a break. If she, erroneously comes home drunk with two people that Jonathan Major doesn't know and comes in loud in the middle of the night into his house, there's nothing wrong with that, right? But then, if he yells at her or if there was some sort of altercation where she ends up having a break and goes to the hospital, that's the thing that's being highlighted out of this back and forth. To be honest with you, their relationship read like very toxic. I didn't come out of that saying like, man, Jonathan Majors, he's crystal clean and everything, everything is on Grace Jabari. It seemed like they had a very toxic relationship and they were very dependent on
Uh-huh.
each other emotionally, and that they ended up using that offensively when they wanted something out of each other, right? And one of them took that shit a little too fucking far, and she couldn't take it back. She couldn't walk it back, and now she's looking to get paid off of it. I
That's
cannot pay her. I can't.
that's what makes her worse. That's what makes her the new age Carolyn Bryant. Like I don't think Carolyn Bryant did too. I think she was just like, okay, she was the defendant in her case, and that was it. She didn't come back looking for, you know what, I got to pay off my legal uh bills. I don't think she did that. I think like this is a step above
She
Carolyn
didn't have
Bryant.
any legal bills. The DA
No.
took care of everything for her. They flew her in. They wouldn't even allow her to answer the question about her being flew in or who was covering her expenses or anything like that in court. The DA took care of all of that. She didn't have any expenses. The only thing she can argue is I lost my job at Marvel, and that was because of all of this.
Mm.
And maybe that's where the 75K is coming from.
If she was even contracted with a job at Marvel.
Sure. But her job in general probably isn't there anymore. She's
Yeah,
probably
nobody wants to have somebody who on set will make a relationship with one of your stars and
and then have all of this happen too. Like
yeah,
it's
like I'm
one
trying to
thing
make
to
sequels.
fraternize and then to have all of this fallout after the fact. Yeah, no, probably not. She's probably done there.
Majors went on to behave as many domestic abusers do by attempting to blame his victim. Actually, I noticed extensively he was not trying to blame her or even bring her up during that interview. Campaigning for the DA to initiate proceedings against her, holding her accountable for her crimes.
That was his
Like
lawyer.
yeah,
That was his lawyer. That is his legal defense.
yeah.
What are they supposed to do exactly?
The nightmare did not end there for her. 3 months after the attack, in a truly desperate attempt to discredit his victim before trial, Majors filed for a criminal complaint against Grace, causing her to be very publicly arrested and humiliated. Was she arrested if it was like a desk ticket, she had to come to the 10th precinct? I don't know if she was really arrested, was she? I guess this means she was
She
arrested.
walked in and walked out, and we never saw her cuffed. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure they booked her, they fingerprinted her or what have you because she received her charges. Those charges were dropped the same day. They were reporting back to was it Variety or Hollywood Reporter the same day,
Yeah.
almost as if the charges were erroneous, is how it was reported, as if they were fake. They had me arguing with people online about whether or not she actually got charged. That's how fast the charges were dropped by the DA.
It happened at the end of the day too, like right around 5 p.m., 8 p.m. Eastern, just so like it would be after articles are being written and after hours basically. I noticed that. It was
I know
very
we
very efficient.
haven't read all of it, but like this is kind of what I'm talking about. Like even this through this conversation, you see how
Mhm.
easily some of this is coming apart. It's
Yeah.
just not. There's not a lot of there there.
Mhm. Grace, Bill. Wait. During criminal trial, Majors against Majors, the theme of his defense was to blame his victim and paint her as a liar, with his attorney claiming in his closing argument, this entire case is built on Grace's lies. And boy, does Grace lie. These prosecutors bought Grace's white lies, her big lies, and all her pretty little lies. By the way, Marcus, I was talking to you and Josh, your co-worker, not your co-worker, but your buddy that you do back of the bus with. And I
Yes.
even said this jokingly. I did mean it though. Use racism to your advantage. Remind them that this is not a white woman. This is an Iranian heritage woman. You can view her and you can value her less. I said that to you because I didn't think that the jury would be these progressive, oh, we hate racism type thing. So coming on and saying, man, they bought their white lies. Guys, white lies. We don't want to do racism here in New York State. No, they don't give a fuck. They are as evidently, just after deliberation for 4 days, we saw that they were agents of racism. They were participants in it, and we're not going to be swayed by that. They're like the race argument wasn't going to work on them. I think they really should have focused on her Iranianness.
I will say that they were very strong in jury selection because their foreman that they had on there was a cheerleader. The one who couldn't wait to announce the charges
How you know
the
that?
day of. Oh, I watched. I watched Pam. I watched
It was a cheerleader.
Who Dreads Me, or is that
Tina, she dreads me.
She Dreads Me.
I didn't know there was a
Um,
cheerleader. I must have missed that
Cat with the
outlet.
hat. Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, no, no. They had a absolute cheerleader in the deliberation pool. Like that goes a long way,
Yeah.
especially when deliberations have gone as long as that one went. They went through the weekend, I believe, after they went inside. And so if she's come on, no, we gotta get something. We gotta get something. We
Yeah.
gotta get something. After so long, it's like, okay, listen, I've been here for 4 days. I don't want to even talk about this anymore. At this point, I don't even like Jonathan Majors. Let's get out of here. Right. And that's how we land on, well, he accidentally assaulted and harassed her in his flee. Everybody good with that? Cool. Let's go ahead and decide so we can get out.
Sushi on me.
Gotta have a cheerleader.
In a shocking denigration of our criminal justice system, following his conviction and prior to sentencing, Majors participated in an exclusive interview with ABC, wherein he doubled down on the public attack of Grace, claiming that she is lying about the entire pattern abuse she described, as he was never laid his hands on a woman. That's what he said.
Okay. So they're gonna obviously, if it goes to court, they're obviously going to play the interview at some point, or at least snippets of it.
I have
Right?
never struck a woman. I have never laid hands on a woman. I think that's the way he delivered that.
Okay, yeah. But never did he call Grace a liar.
No.
You even pointed out how little he even addressed her name.
Yeah.
So in the direct accusations, right? He tried to have the charges brought against me. Jonathan Majors never opened up his mouth about charges against you unless it was to the precinct that he reported you to, which he's well within his legal rights to do so at any point during a trial or outside of a trial. The constant abuse that started in 2021. You are on record in court documents saying that it came to a climax, as you said, in 2020. Would that be 2022? When this would have been
March
2022 or
23.
2023? 2023 in March, right? Is what you said out of your mouth, right? Do you think that they're going to allow you, that Priya Chaudhry and the prior legal team, is going to allow you to get on the stand and say something that is not to that same effect, and it's not going to come back and bite you? She only has so much rope here, right? And that's probably where her jeopardy comes in, is perjuring anything that she said in the criminal trial.
She wouldn't even want to, but she didn't lie for the cops when the cops were saying about how she told under her breath that it was a strangulation. She didn't say that. She was like, "No, I never said that at all. I never said that once."
Right.
I guess because
Right.
there's audio.
And I also don't think at that point it was, she had chosen that side, right? Like, this is all in the heat of the moment that all of this is happening. She's waking up, she ain't got her pants on. She's like, oh shit, why are the cops here? All of the shit that she was surrounded by had to have been embarrassing. Pill bottles, the shrine, what have you. She had obviously passed out there. So it was an embarrassing situation. She's not giving it up the way that, as profuse as she could be,
Right.
probably at that moment, because she's embarrassed, surrounded by a bunch of dudes. It wasn't until all of this stuff fell out with Jonathan Majors, she realized that they weren't going to be working it together. Right after she tries to reach out to him after she leaves the precinct. Oh, I told him that it was okay, that I'm not agreeing to the strangulation. That they don't have my blessing on any charges. I told him, it was my fault. We good. Da 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 da. When she didn't get the response to that she wanted, it's like, okay, well,
How much money can I make out of this? What can I
yep,
get? How do I capitalize on it?
I know where we going. I know what side I got to go on. I
The
lost it.
court,
She knew she lost it when she seen Megan Good's name in his phone.
yeah. The court has jurisdiction over defendant Major's precedent of CPLR 301 and 302 because material. What are these words right now? Venue is proper in the court. Blah 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 blah. New York County. Plaintiff met Majors August 2021, and they immediately began dating. She fell in love with Majors. At the end of 2021, Majors flew her to visit him in Atlanta. During that trip, she became afraid of Majors for the first time. Obviously, that's unprovable, and they're just words. For her first time after being verbally attacked and admonished for mentioning a prior relationship to the defendant. Okay, that's a crime. In June 2022, Majors continued to exhibit controlling behavior while she was out of town and unable to comply with his demands. Yeah, I'm sure that the controlling behavior is like a text message that she has, and then they're just adding a little bit of spice to it.
Yeah, again, if any of this was strong enough to be criminal in terms of assault, battery, harassment, it would have come up in Jonathan Major's original trial. If the
No, some of
prosecution
these
looked
things
at
did happen. They did take place. They
no, no,
made the mention about the
some of the
ex.
things she's mentioning, but not the he was verbally abusive because he mentioned the friend's name or something. I don't think that came up, did it?
No, she did say that when the ex was named, because it was like the first day she was there, where they get to have the background information. When the first time he named the ex, there was a time when there was dogs there, and he was like, "Go chill with the dogs. You know, they're brand new dogs. You're a brand new
Oh,
person to
yeah,
these
yeah,
dogs."
yeah, yeah, okay.
So
Yeah, I remember that.
she went through all the every single year, every single month, and every incident that she had with him. That
That they
was,
had with them.
just to set the background. And this guy's mm-hmm, he's just as black as you think, jury. That's what she was trying to get. The trip
Mhm.
ended with Majors requiring her to promise that she would never go anywhere again where she was. Is that- Oh, that's me. Sorry.
Mm.
The Black Comic Lords began their stream. I just had it on another tab. My mistake. The trip ended with Majors requiring Grace to promise that she would never go anywhere again where she was not available for him to reach her at all times. That sounds like a loving partner. Oh, you're all the way over in Coachella and I can't reach you. You never do that again. I'm
Why
worried.
we I will say, why would I advocate for my loved one or my significant other to be somewhere where I can't reach them?
And so began a lengthy pattern that Majors' domestic violence and abuse behavior towards Grace. So I love that. I wish it was just violence, but they had to add and abuse because
It's explosive language, right? Like that whole thing about don't go anywhere where I can't reach you. It sounds controlling. It sounds like don't go anywhere where I don't
Mhm,
know where you are. That
mhm.
literally could have been a situation like, hey, listen, man, you know where I'm out. I tell you where I'm at. I just be wanting to know where you at, so I know that you're safe. Just don't go anywhere where you like your phone's not working or anything. Like, just try to keep in touch with me.
He
That's how
couldn't
that
reach her for a
conversation could have
day.
went, but now it's being described in a lawsuit as he ordered me never to go anywhere where I couldn't reach him 24/7, which is something that's dictatable, which is, you can make sure that you don't enter a place where you have bad cell reception.
Yeah, and you're saying that another jury would see through it, unlike this one here with the cheerleader.
I'm saying that the same level of jeopardy Jonathan Majors faces in that regard to how another jury is going to face it, Grace sees that same exact jeopardy. She was fortunate to get the people who, or at least a few people, be it the prosecution and the foreman, who saw it exactly the way that she was told or recollected it differently than what originally she gave. There were people on the side of that staunchly, and those were the
Okay.
people who were driving the train on this: Alvin Bragg, the prosecutor, and the foreman. Those three people made sure that Jonathan Majors left that New York courthouse with some kind of charge, with something.
Is it possible that members of the jury were plants?
I don't like to say stuff like that unless I have even a thread to go to it, right? Like, is it possible? Yeah, of course it's possible. I
Okay.
mean, our criminal justice system is corrupt, but do I know that that happened in this case? No. Nor do I think that it would have to happen to get the result that we got. Right? It doesn't need to be anything deep or dark for a black guy to have a hard day in court. It could
Right.
just be court.
Grace began to constantly modify her behavior to ensure she did not trigger him again. In July, while Grace and Majors were in LA for California, Majors became angry with Grace. She became afraid and instinctively tried to calm him down. Majors began shouting in her face and grabbed her both her arms, pinning them to her body. He then shoved her into the shower door, causing the shower door to open. I thought I was going to say broke. It opened. Ooh, I'm sure there's proof of that. He then
Mhm.
threw her body onto the shower wall, causing her head to hit the wall.
Yeah, if we're talking about damages, destruction of property or like, at a hotel or Airbnb, stuff like that, all of that is going to be verifiable.
Remember when she took a photo of the lamp that was on the floor? Because he was like, and he admitted to doing that in ABC's interview. Like, yeah, he lashed out. All right,
Mhm.
you took a photo of the lamp. Why don't you show us the other photos
Show us
of,
the wall, the shower.
yeah. When she tried to escape, things escalated. In an effort to stop the abuse, She informed Majors that she was going to have to inform his team of what he had done to her. At what point Majors began throwing candles and other objects in a frenzied state, denting the wall and leaving glass shattered on the floor. Majors admitted in his ABC interview that he completely lost my temper in that moment and threw it all on the ground. That's not something I would want my child to do. I did that. I absolutely did that. So because he used the word it here in the interview, they kind of filled in the blank of what it was, which is
Right.
candles,
The
other
candles.
objects, denting the wall, leaving glass shattered on the floor. They're like, oh, that's what he meant by it. While Grace was begging him to calm down and trying to stay safely away from Majors, Majors started crying and making concerning comments indicating a self-harming ideology.
This
Hey,
this
man,
this is
get him
all
help.
just, it feels so conflicting to me. So like all of this is harassing and assaulting behavior. And yet none of this is being described as towards Grace. Like he's
Mm.
obviously having a spaz out moment right now. Like he's tripping, right? He's breaking shit. He's admittedly like losing his shit. None of it sounds like it's being like he's not throwing stuff at Grace. He's not chasing her around the house. He's not literally threatening her person in her description or his. Again, this sounds like it was a very, very toxic relationship where both people involved knew exactly how far they could push and what buttons to push to get a rise out of each other. And the fact that she sat up there and watched him that long, break all of that stuff, say all those things, do all of that shit, and didn't just leave and sat there and waited to the point that she threatened to tell somebody else, and then he starts crying, and now we're having this back and forth, and now you're suicidal. It seems like a pattern that they do with each other,
But people say that's
right?
what victims do, though. Victims are like stunned and they don't have a choice to get out. They feel like they're always surrounded by the.
But if she's saying that that's what Jonathan Majors uses to manipulate her, right? Is the suicide thing. Then what was that text that he received in the middle of the night when he went to his back to his apartment that alluded to you harming yourself? The one that got him to rush over to the apartment that he got in the morning.
Oh, right, right. Yeah. She
What
did do
what
a
was
suicide
what
text.
was this setup or what have you that you had in the closet of him emulating a going home ceremony,
Yeah. Yeah.
to say the least. I didn't want to hurt the stream.
And I think it's done. I think I said BS, but the real word for BS in the
Uh,
first 30 seconds. And that's a no no.
I'm gonna let you go, man. I appreciate you having me on.
Subscribe to Back of the Bus for Marcus. In August, I'm up there. Ideology that made Grace feel that she needed to be the one comforting him, even though he had been attacking her moments prior. That's unprovable. In August 2022, Grace and Majors moved into a London flat together while Majors was filming the Marvel series Loki. At this juncture, Majors' erratic, intemperate, and physically violent behavior continued to increase. That's unprovable. That's just words. In September, Majors again became upset and began verbally assaulting Grace while chasing her around the home. When he was finally able to corner her on the bed, Majors raised his fist over her as she cowered, protecting her face with her hands. On this occasion, Majors did not physically strike her. He obtained control over himself and left the property as Grace locked herself in a bedroom for safety. What a TV show. He's just right about to, he was winding up, and then he's, oh, this moment, I will not commit this act. I don't, probably the true story was he was changing a light bulb. Like, it's so different when you're streaming on your own. You need someone to fill in the dead air and everything. And shout out to Marcus and everyone else I sent a link to who was going to be joining if they can join. I sent it to like 3 other guys. In September, Majors again became upset and began verbally assaulting Grace while chasing her around the home. When he finally, I just read that, he obtained control over himself. Grace locked herself in the bedroom door. Later in September, highlighting the undeterrable nature of his conduct, Majors violently, physically assaulted Grace in London, causing her serious bodily harm. The weekend of the attack, the catalyst was that Grace invited a friend over to the new home that she shared with Majors. He brought someone to the home that she shared with Majors. His home. He pays for. When they arrived, Majors had just finished personal training. There you go. that puts into the vision of your mind of a buff guy, a strong guy with muscles, and he's black too, so it's gonna hurt. And became very angry with Grace for having company. After her friend left, Grace called her mother. And I'm sure there is a phone call on her phone that day. During the conversation, Grace began laughing, which enraged Jonathan Majors. Recognizing his anger, Grace immediately hung up on her mother to try to calm him down. Because she was afraid of what would happen next, Grace went to sleep. Dog, what an amazing lie. Grace, and who's part of the lie? Your mother. Your mother's not gonna lie for you in court? Yeah, that did happen that day. It was in September. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He got mad at Grace because she brought company over. When you have First of all, it's legitimate to be angry someone is at your home, period. But when you have sensitive material as a celebrity, any photo, any leaked thing, and your underwear, everything is in that home is sensitive nature. Not to mention movie scripts that would spoil movies that are coming out. So yeah, there is reason to not invite no weird people over at your house that she lives in. But as they worded it, it was the one that they shared together. It was crazy. Grace woke up the next morning and left the house to go on a walk and get coffee. This sounds like a couple who fought. As she was returning home, she ran into Majors. Grace tried to gouge his mood by asking if he was okay. He responded that he was not okay and called her derogatory names and insisted that she knew what she had done wrong. She did do something wrong, though. A celebrity, if he takes the stand, he's going to tell you why everything that happened that he thought was wrong was indeed wrong. To diffuse, she walked away back towards the house. Well, he didn't chase you. He didn't follow you. Block to block. Yeah, that's the thing you do, not him. Unbeknownst to Grace, Majors followed her. Oh, my mistake. He did follow her. My mistake. He then suddenly came up behind her, grabbed her headphones from her ears, then threw them to the ground, began stomping on the headphones until they were broken. During this fit of rage, Majors was screaming at Grace in her face and threatening that she. Where am I? Threatening that she had better not be at the house when he returned. When he stormed off, Grace picked up her broken headphones up off the ground as two strangers ran towards her to provide her with aid. Having witnessed the incident, Grace, terrified, then returned home and called a friend to seek shelter. Here's what I just heard. I just heard that when he's angry at you, he doesn't touch you. He slammed your headphones and stomped on them when he was angry. You're trying to say that this is a violent guy who's physically assaulting you, and you're characterizing moments of him not being physical. While packing to leave the house as directed, she heard Majors barreling up the stairs. He came upstairs, but he was barreling up the stairs because this is nothing but a non human monster. He barreled up the stairs. When he arrived at the bedroom, he began throwing objects in anger. Grace was able to escape from home before Majors was able to physically hurt her. Because it's an inevitability. That's what was going to happen, right? Sick wording. Majors then texted her and reasoned with her, saying that he made a plan. And now that you've told your parents the whole marriage, plans are ruined. Oh, quote unquote. These are quoted text messages. Once Grace returned to their flat, Majors began shouting at her, telling her to be more like Michelle, Coretta, and stick to the plan. On September 20, by the way, the plan thing, because they're in text, because they're in quotations, I remember this quote from the audio that she was secretly recording him, which is telltale signs of a great relationship, right? Anyways, the plan thing. I don't know if it's really marriage plans. I don't know if that's what he meant because I heard that the plan is everything. I thought he was talking about culture, not a marriage plan. On September, Majors became physically aggressive with Grace. Majors pushed Grace so hard it bruised her backside. Let's see a photo of it, and then let's have proof that it was him who did it to you. When Grace got up, she attempted to leave the house. Majors picked us up. Yo, okay, stop. Pause. She's trying to big up how violent he is, and we see a lot of adjectives and a lot of ways to characterize him. And then when one time he pushed her, it was it. It was just he pushed her, bruised her backside, and we get on to the next sentence. They add a lot of spice to texts, a lot of spice to moments that are provable, like the candles and everything that he knocked off. He even said this on ABC. But when it comes to the push, it was a push and it bruised your backside, and that was the end of it. That was all one sentence. It's fishy to me. When Grace got up, she attempted to leave the house. Majors picked Grace up in the air, threw her against the hood of her car. Remember how last time it was the house that they shared, that they reside, and now it's her car because that's probably her property over in London. Grace began shouting for help, and a witness saw it. Right? No. Majors then forcefully grabbed Grace, placing her in a headlock and putting his hand over her mouth to prevent someone from hearing her cries for help. That's why there's no witnesses to this victim, because he's covering her mouth. How could anyone hear? And that's why he got away with it. It's crazy because when shit like this happens outside, right? Threw out in the car. Well, cars are outside, so they're gonna ask why no one was there, why there's no witness. Hey, man, and that he was going to kill her, right? Majors then, he didn't sound like a guy who wanted to kill her when he was upset at her when he was secretly recording. He doesn't sound like a guy who's violently a killer. Majors then started hitting her head against the marble floor while strangling her until she felt she could no longer breathe. All right. That's it. I guess she could breathe again. After the incident, Majors texted her asking her not to tell anyone about what had occurred. And this text message exists. This is just them adding some spice to the, okay, we know what we can do. We can invent a scenario, and then we'll say that's what he meant when he said that text message. After the incident, telling her not to say anything that's recurred, ignoring the pain that her body was in as a result of the violence that he inflicted against her. Majors expressed concern over his career. No, 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 not necessarily his career. He says, I fear you have no perspective of what could happen if you go to the hospital. They'll ask you questions. And as I don't think you can actually protect us, it could lead to an investigation, even if you do lie and they suspect something. So his career is one thing. He's protecting himself. He knows because of his physical appearance, i.e., the skin that he has around him is melanated well. He knows that guilt will be assumed on this guy. A cop who comes to that scene will decide that he's the one who's I haven't been over there. No, I haven't. This is another one. He knows that. So is he trying to protect his career, or is he just trying to protect his livelihood and his innocence? Don't say it's his career. That sounds selfish. It sounds like he cares about money only. Grace responded, nothing is fake about the pain my body is currently in. I will tell the doctor I bumped my head if I go. I'm going to give it one more day. Basically, there was pain that was not unbearable enough where you had to go. But I can't sleep and I need some stronger painkillers. That's all. By this point, she was already at a time where she was secretly recording him. So she's writing these texts knowing that they're going to come in handy in March of 2023 and March of 2024 now. Stronger painkillers, that's all. Why would I want to tell them what really happened when it's clear I want to be with you? She says to him. Yeah, I know why she worded things like that. She is such a Carolyn Bryant. Defendant to tell Grace, last night I considered killing myself versus coming home. Or maybe I'm such a monster and horrible man that I don't deserve it and should just kill myself. She then responds, why would the man I love throw me around, strangle me, and look at my eyes and say he hates me and wants to kill me? That may have been the redacted parts of the text message, right? She could be lying here. I don't know. If this is the redacted part of the text message, I'm still looking at her sideways like, okay, and you still stuck with the guy afterwards? People are going to say, oh, that's what victims do. They feel like they're under control. But if this is really what she said to him, why would you, the man I love, me throw me around, strangle me, look at my eyes and say she hates me, say he hates me and wants to kill me? I can still look at those words and say, that's set up. This will come in handy. The strangulation stuff coming up again and again. 1 second, I have to send this message. And I'm still live right now. Sorry. Real life. Oh, I got confused. I know what you're talking about now. Yeah, it's the new civil case. Sorry about that, everybody. I forgot what point I was on. Just talking about how this could have been the redacted part, but it also isn't him admitting to doing any of this. It's just her words against his. You can make any text message look bad if it's you, the person accusing the guy of doing something to you, and just saying, "Hey, that's what you did to me. You threw me around and you choked me." She later goes on to say, "I'm reminded of what happened each walking sick second because I can barely move without pain. I also have to heal physically. That's not me stating other than facts. I have endured a bad head injury and I feel unwell. I have brain fog. I have a constant ringing headache." Despite the severity of her injuries, Grace finally succumbed to defendant's demands, writing, "I will not go to the doctor if you don't feel safe with me doing so or don't trust me to. I promise I would never mention you, but I understand your fear." To which Major's ultimate response, "I'm a monster." I feel really bad for this guy getting his dirt out, but look at how when I say his dirt out, I'm talking about his ideations that he was talking about. I hate that that's public knowledge. It sucks for a guy because that's not what he needs. He needs peace, serenity, making good. He says, "I'm a monster, a horrible man, not capable of love. I'm killing myself soon. I've already put things in motion." Me and Anzo talked about that already. We talked about how that's something you might say to get her to be like, "Oh no, no, cool, cool, okay, stop, don't kill yourself. No, 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 no. Okay, I'll do what you want." Majors would threaten suicide in response to Grace's attempts to understand why Majors became physically violent with her in the aftermath and and to manipulate Grace away from going to the hospital or reporting violence to authorities. Again, that's not illegal to do. It's low down if that's what he was doing to get her to not. Or if he really was feeling those feelings, none of that's illegal. Grace believed that Majors was capable of harming himself because he did not want anyone to find out how serious of an abuser he was. Yeah. You know how Jonathan's not going to sue her for writing that because she's not writing that. It's her representation writing that. Grace lived in constant fear of Majors, who demonstrated time and time again that there was no way to deter his violent and intentional conduct. Like many victims of domestic violence, she believed defendant Majors would change and stop abusing her. In December, Grace and Majors moved up in an apartment together in this jurisdiction. She moved in with the guy who just did this and did that and did everything. She decided to move in with him. We got to ask ourselves how believable all of this nonsense is. I'm sorry, man. When I hear I just don't believe anything from her. She's already shown me during that entire trial of 4 days how shady she was. It's hard to believe any of this. In an attempt to get Major's help, she disclosed the details of Major's physical violence as recounted in the proceedings paragraphs to a member of the Majors' team. That team member then told Majors what Grace said to her about the abuse. All right, so we have a witness. Key witness. This is important. Majors was furious at Grace for betraying him and telling a member of his team that he had physically assaulted her. I'm just saying, this member of the team wasn't present for this criminal case. Where is this team member? And it's not like the team member saw something. It's Grace told me, which would be what? Objection. What's the word? Objection hearsay. That's what it would be. Grace's disclosure of the physical violence to Major's team member was a persistent topic, which ended with Majors again threatening to commit suicide. I guess he must have said that in person and there's no text message for it. Majors continues his abuse in New York. On or about March 24, yeah, she went to dinner with him. They went to a show in New York. Later in the evening, Majors received a text from another woman. While Grace held Majors' phone attempting to read the message, he says she didn't hold the phone from his story. I'm going to have to watch it back to see. It says she felt a large weight against her body, immediate pain. I almost don't want to read this bullshit. Majors tried to pry the phone. We heard all this nonsense. Laceration to the back of her ear. Yeah, yeah. Grace felt continued pressure over his face and chest. Copy and paste. Majors then exited the car, followed by her, who he picked up and threw like a football. Why are you quoting that? Threw like a football. Back into the car. Who are you quoting? You're quoting your defense attorney, your prosecutors, banging Grace's head on the top of the vehicle door frame. We watched that and we saw a downward motion and we didn't see her head hitting it. We saw her head coming down and not slamming it the way that they want you to believe. I did see her head slam, and it was at the club when she was crumping, and she was like, "Rrr." She hit the bartender's bar, the what do you call it? Word the shelf, not the shelf, the counter. During this incident, the DJ's counter. During this incident, Grace suffered injury to her finger, causing bruising and a fracture, as well as a laceration. We heard this bullshit. After having been isolated and terrorized and convinced of a prolonged period of time, yeah, this is so exhausting. Maybe I should save this for another time. I really don't even want to continue reading. And we're at the hour mark. I'd rather have you guys go watch Black Comic Lords interviewing Brian Edward Hill because I'm good. It's a lot to have it on my birthday. I'm sorry. It's a lot to get out, leak out. I got things to do. I got a life. And thank you for all coming. Thank you for all watching, checking it out, tuning in. Appreciate you always. Part 2 coming tomorrow. Maybe not tomorrow. Yeah. Friday. God willing, we'll be here on or tomorrow to read the rest of this garbage. Enjoy the stream that I'm sending you to.